Good evening. Today, January 13th, 2021. This is recording 154. Recording 154 entitled, All Things Are Good. All things are good. That's something, isn't it? All things are good. When we have testifying to our senses, good things, bad things, mediocre things, things in the middle, things on the edge, the scripture says all things are good. One of the things that I really delight in God is I was directed to never talk except through the scriptures, which I thought was kind of impossible, but now I find it's my lifeline, as they say. When a scripture will run up and back up whatever it is you're saying, and you don't have to argue or explain, just simply present the scripture and tell the person, go listen. When this came to me, all things are good. All things. All things are good. Well, 1 Timothy 4:4 says, all things created by God are good. Nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving. Wow. Nothing or no thing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving. Now, that doesn't mean that we just reach out and grab Clorox and drink it, or poison, or something that you can just look at a gun or a book. You don't accept those things, but there is a scripture that says if you should stumble into poison or snakes or whatnot, or something bites you, it won't harm you. Why? Because all things created by God are good. Well, then what about the things that God didn't create? All things were created by him and for him, and there was not anything created that was created that he did not create. Wow, that's a blanket, isn't it? All things. So what is left? Why do we make judgments? Why do we decide something is good and something is bad when the scriptures say all things are good? Because we have not reached that place where we just trust God implicitly, forsaking all suggestions to the contrary. Any evil suggestion coming at us would have to turn itself good if we, with thanksgiving, accept the ruling, the law that God has created all things. Oh, okay, it's starting to come into focus now. So I could be making a mistake, but if my conscience has accepted the fact that God has not created anything that would harm me, and I am sold on that, then that thing cannot harm me. And I will find out that all things are good because in God's world there is nothing that is bad. Let me read something to you. God is. Life is. We are permitted no further judgment. God is. It is a matter of training oneself to form no opinion whatsoever. It is so easy and satisfying to one's ego to be a good judge of human nature, to be able humanly to evaluate those whom we meet. And of course, humanly, we may be right. But looking out at the world and judging mankind, putting labels on people, and abiding by those human opinions and decisions will only lead to trouble. There is but one way to come out from among them and be separate, and that is in our agreement that God made all that was made and all that God made is good, in our agreement that God's Spirit is the life, the soul, and the mind of individual beings. How can we possibly accept a teaching which reveals God as the life of all being, as the creative principle of all being, and then designate some good and some bad? What's in the way? We are. Our ego, our judgment, and let's go a little bit deeper. Our doubts, our fears. There is something that's telling us that we have a life that we must protect according to the laws of good and evil. And we have not come under the umbrella, the belief system, that God is the only creative power that exists. There is no other power. And if God is the only creative power, then what do we have to fear if we know this wholeheartedly? Nothing. So we realize now that if God created all things and we come under that, we submit ourselves to that, we now realize that nothing is to be rejected. No race, no creed, no color, nothing is to be rejected if God made it all. Wow. We must receive with thanksgiving this law. This law will then saturate our conscience. I know you've heard it said, a house divided cannot stand. And what do? We immediately start looking at our address. Come on now. And we see the problems that we have, husband and wife, husband and children, father and children, children to children, neighbors to us. And we immediately start talking about, not in my house. And we're talking externally. And we're basing everything externally until we come to the understanding that your conscience is your house. That's where you live. You live in a place that is untouched by the things of this world. Nothing can get into your consciousness to defile you, because that's where you live. And you decide what comes in, and you decide what goes out. And once again, what does it say? The only thing that can defile you are the things that come out of a man. For that which go in drops in the draught. A man is defiled when his conscience is divided. Just to chase a small rabbit, I sat and watched a little bit of the argument between the Democrats and the Republicans today. And I saw the house divided. They all say they want the same thing, but you know they don't. Why? Because they're looking at the back end. Where am I going to end up if I take this position? Whereas God does not give us an option. You either all in or you're divided. And if you're divided, you may as well be all out. That's just pure and simple. So what do? We've got to come to a place and we've got to make a decision through practice. We must stop here and not even attempt to proceed with personal reservations. There are those who decide what of God's creation is good to accept. These categories include people, clothing, food, money, places, etc. You name it, someone has a belief about it. Someone has an opinion about it. And we know what opinions are like, don't we? Everybody got one. Although one may see positive results in many areas, the negative views personally held in conscience will always limit the total freedom provided by the word of creation. In other words, I can prosper somewhat temporarily here in the earth by taking a view of my own. But I am limited because it may not be the view of God. And therefore, that little piece of darkness, in the span of 1,000,000 categories will hold me subject to failure. If thine eye be filled with light, then are you free indeed. But if thine eye have a speck of darkness, how large is that darkness? In other words, if God is not sitting on the throne, ruling every aspect of our lives, then how far? Don't fool yourself. Don't think that, well, I can hold this one over here and don't never bring it up to God. When the scripture says there is nothing hidden that will not be brought to the light. So how can we keep that away from God when God is the actual seat of everything that we stand for? I hope that you're seeing the vice squeeze in, the walls squeeze in. Not for fear, but they're squeezing in to what? To get you to come to a place where you say, God, it's you or nothing. All things were created by him, and there is not anything that exists that was not created by him and for him. Bam. Considering nothing else. If I don't believe that, what is my responsibility? To get to the place where I do believe this, which is going to lead me to a place that says simply, take no thought for your, no, Rev, don't say that. Don't say that. Isn't that what the scriptures say? That's not what he meant. Really? When was the last time you sat down with him and he said, no, that's not what I meant. Take no thought. If he's telling you to take no thought, who has taken thought? He has taken thought on your behalf. If he's telling you, just trust me. I'm reminded right now of Jesus when he's going with, I think it's Jairus. And Jairus comes and asks him to go with him to heal his daughter. But the lady with the issue of blood gets in the way and distracts Jesus for a moment. I just wonder how long, I got a mile to go. What's 5 minutes? And they come and say, trouble the master no more. Your daughter is what? Dead, gone. And can you imagine what that man felt like? I thought I got here in time. See, he's not like the Roman centurion who said, I know that your words travel over the air and can go, if I'm here, your words can go over there. Jairus is not like that. Jairus is like us. Somebody walks in and just says, hey, man, it's over. You go, and they say, trouble the master no more. Your daughter has expired. And Jesus looks at him with the understanding that God has created all things, you better get this, and has placed them in his hands because he is the gap maker. He is that which is standing in the gap between that which is invisible and that which is visible, and he knows now he has control and power over all flesh. And he simply looks at Jairus without explaining all things are good things. What does he say? Just believe. Trust me, bro. And they keep walking to the house, and when he gets there, what does he meet up with? Oh, they're all outside, the professional mourners out there just crying and weeping and mourning and doing anything. And he walks up and says, y'all can leave now. She ain't dead. Whoa. What? She's not dead. She just asleep. And immediately they stop crying, and what do they start doing? Laughing and pointing fingers at him. Do you realize what you have entered into when you say, I want this gospel? That's what you've entered into. Not, I got here too late. All things were created by him, and there was not anything created that was created that was not created by him, and all things contain him. Look at where we have to get. And here's the bottom line. If in the beginning he is the only creative force, then everything seen and unseen must be a derivative of that life. And it must be alive. And if it is alive, then it cannot turn on its creator and say, I'm out. You didn't make me good enough. No. Jesus is the visible image. That's what standing in the gap means. Lord, here am I. I got a sermon coming up in a week or so called, Here Am I, Send Me. But how can I be sent except I offer myself, submit myself, accept the responsibility of sitting in the gap and listening, that the Father that created all things would be able, through me, to express thee. See, in and of myself, I can't do anything. You can call me right now, and I'll say, I'll give you help. But I must go to the Father. I must go to the creative principle. I must go and sit and wait, sit and patiently listen. But why would I do that? Because I know that the scripture says all things created by God are good. So if all things are created by God are good, then I'm going to the creator of all things and says, there's being suggested to me that there's something you created that's not good. Lord, help me feel the truth. And I wait. And I wait. And I wait, and I might fall asleep. And I wake up, and then I wait. I might go to bed and get up in the morning, and I wait. But my ears are ever open. Why? Because he says, nothing shall by any means harm you, and I send you as sheep among wolves, and I say to you, go to them, your brethren, and tell them that their Father, our Father, your Father, has sent you to heal the sick. See, I know why I'm here now. I only need the confidence to speak. And the only way I can get that confidence is to sit patiently and listen. We are all called to perfect belief. You've heard otherwise, haven't you? You ain't perfect. But yet the scriptures say what? Be ye perfect. Be ye holy. We are all called. How in the world can an imperfect person become perfect in his own understanding? Go to the one that called you. That's how simple it is. Well, where is he? What does omnipresent mean? He's everywhere. So I can go to him anytime, any place, anywhere, and just simply say, Father, you have called me to perfect belief. Perfect belief would then be the presence of God where I am, would it not? Wow. Why do you think he said, be like a little child? He's telling you it's that simple. It's so simple that a little child can understand and do it. And yet we have built so many walls and obstacle courses to this, to the point where we're willing to fight one another. Like Jesus said, you Pharisees, you whited sepulchres. You won't enter in, and you stand in the door and keep them who are seeking. Keep them who would enter, you keep them out. It is very hard to find a teaching of perfection. You don't believe me? Start looking around. Start visiting any religious organization, any church, any what. Just start visiting and see how far from teaching perfection. Lowly sinner, unworthy, full of sin, iniquity. That's all they're going to tell you. To be judged. It is so hard to find a teaching of perfection, and it is so easy to find those who resist this teaching. How can one come to perfection and remain imperfect? How can one come to perfection and remain imperfect? It's impossible. It's impossible to go to perfection. But Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor, and I will give you rest. Well, let's open that up just for a minute. Come unto me, all you that are imperfect, right? And I will make you what? Perfect. Come unto me, and I will change you. Paul says it like this in Romans 12:2. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you take that and flip it over to 2 Corinthians 3, and I think it's 18 and 19, he says, and we are transformed into the glory that we're looking at. Come unto the perfection. As you come and look at the perfection, you are changed as by the Spirit. Oh, you mean, yeah. The scales, the veils are removed, and you are now able to see the invisible. You are able to hear the inaudible. For anyone to learn something unknown, they must submit their understanding to that which knows or is greater than they. And our bishops and our preachers and teachers and prophets and prophetesses and apostles and who are pastors and evangelists, they all decide that they are greater than we. Therefore, we are in blasphemy when we try to go beyond them. I hope you see that. They may be sincere, but nevertheless, they are holding a ceiling on the infinite nature of your being. That's why Jesus said, come out from among them. Greater works shall you do. What church do you know of? What religious organization do you hear of? And today I watched one of the guys who was stirring up the episodes that happened on January the 6th. He's quoting the Bible like you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, whoa, Lord, let me at him. No, baby, you stay with me. That's not your world. You get mixed up in that world out there, watch what happens. I had a person yesterday, and they put on like 10, 11 posts a day, talk all these wonderful, loving scriptures and all of this wonderful, how you got to do this and how to do this to show people you love them and be there for them. And he comes yesterday with one that says, after I've given people more chances than they deserve, then I'm through with them and I'm done. And you should feel the same way. And now if he hadn't put you should feel the same way on there, if he hadn't put that on there, I would have just passed on by. But he put that statement on there, and I wrote in and I said, well, whatever happened to 70 times 7, bro? He wrote back and said, I respect you, but thanks for responding. This is the way I'm going. I said, okay. I did not try to explain to him whatnot. But here you're putting out, and all his friends fall in line, because when they saw my thing, guess what they said? Oh, yeah, of course. There you go, quoting. Didn't bother me at all. But my point was, Lord, here is one that is saying that he is living for you, but when he's done, he's done. And he's telling me I should be the same way. And I wanted to say to him, you need to edit your post in and take that last statement out, and I'll leave you alone. But I left him alone anyway. But you understand what I'm getting at? If you want to change, you must go to something greater than you perceive yourself to be. How many times have you in your life seen behavior in your life that you did not like, and you said, I'm not going to do that? Didn't you go to something greater than that? You adopted behavior that was greater than where you were. You must go to something greater, and the servant will never. See, visibility, we being visible, we are the servant of our belief. Your belief is greater than you are. That's why it operates even while you sleep. It operates when you're not even thinking about it. Why? Because you have adopted it to look out over your land and to spew the understanding that you have garnered, that you have established. You have given it authority to speak, to mold, to create on your behalf. That's why the scripture says, be careful. Be careful how you listen. For the Pharisees walk around in long flowing robes, and they receive honor and glory before men, but their hearts are nowhere near God. Proof? Nicodemus. And if you notice in that scripture, Nicodemus didn't say, Jesus, I know that you come. He said, we, which meant there was at least one more person that agreed with him, even though that person wasn't mentioned. Wow. All things. We must go to the one place that we are being taught we can't go. You must go into the Holy of Holies. And where is it? Oh, Lord, is it within me? Woo! It's within me. It's not somewhere outside of me. I don't have to go to Israel. I don't have to go to Mississippi. I don't have to go to Texas. It goes there. And you need not tell anyone that that's what you're doing. Just go. Just go and ask God. To tell God or perfection that you know better what is good is the pinnacle of defeat. You may as well go ahead and pick your casket out, lay in it, push the button, tell the hole to open up, and go sink down in it and cover you up. You don't need anybody. You're already dead. I'm going to go to God and tell God, dude, you ain't make this right. Where did I get that from? Uh-oh. Somebody told me, didn't they? That's the only place that I could get it from. Because had I been a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old, a 6-year-old that could read or could listen to cassette tapes and CDs, and when I heard all things are good, and God has not created anything to harm me, then where would I get the idea that something in this earth can harm me? Someone had to tell me. And they told me in such a way that I locked it in and I live by it. So that when I'm in any situation, guess what comes up? You can't do this. You can't do that. Why? Because that'll hurt you. And yet, I am that which is created in the image and likeness of God. God, everybody's with you. You ever seen that thing where you say, you walk up to somebody? I saw a thing on there today where one of my cousins down in Alabama had her son on there, and I called her brother's name out when I saw the guy because he looked just like her brother. But I said, but that dude ain't but like 18, 19 years old. And I know her brother is probably 40-some years old. You ever heard it says, you look like your daddy or mama spit you out? That's exactly what it means. God spat us out. And we're walking around letting people tell us who we are. We are all called to perfection. And only perfection can define itself. That's what Jesus meant when he says, in and of myself, in and of this visible personality that they call Jesus, son of Joseph, in and of that self, I can't do anything. All those things that you perceive that I did not do them. Perfection did them. When Joseph, in closing, Joseph and Mary spent 3 days looking for Jesus, and they looked everywhere, just like we will. What's the first place you're going to look? Hospital. You go then next place, police station, jail, homeless centers, lost and found, right? What was the last place they looked? In the synagogue. And they walk up. Can you imagine the relief when they go, oh, there he is. And they got up on him and started, boy, what is wrong with you? Why do you do this? What did he say? Why y'all all upset? Y'all know me. Even though I'm just 12 years old, what do I do around the house all the time? I talk about God, don't I? He had to. He said, did you not know that I would be in my Father's house? Did you not know that? Why are you looking all over the place and worried about me? Why? Because it was God that created me. It is God that watches over me. It is God that feeds me. It is God that loves me. It is God that protects me. Jesus said, one thing I know, all things are created by God and are good. Nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving as perfectly created. God bless you.